Hey, it's Doom here, Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, one half the Dungeon Swag team. I'm back for part 2 of the Hound Archon, and I'm still having concerns about this really soft base. But we do need to start coating this guy up. And so we know his skin colors are like a dark reddish brown, or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of brown, get a little bit of red. That was not my butt. Or was it? I'm going to mix those together and make a reddish brown base coat. That's probably a lot more paint than I ever needed. Well, there's no probably about it. That's a lot more paint than I ever needed. I'm going to get a brush, just a cheap brush. I'm going to start doing his flesh with it. Now you'll notice that he's pretty shiny. Well, that's because I still haven't gone out to buy matte black spray, so I just used this gloss. And then so that it would hold paint better, I hit it with some clear coat afterwards. So now we're just painting up this Hound Archon. La 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 la. He actually turned out better than I initially guessed, but not quite as nice as I had hoped. So I'm painting his armbands too, because I can come back. Metallics have good coverage, and I want to do those in metallic. So, I mean, I didn't paint them on purpose, but I got paint on them, so I was like, yeah, whatever. And then those shoulder strap things there are metallic too, so I'm not overly sweating those. Let me get his hands. And this nice dark brownish red. Then I'm thinking optimally we're going to need another coat of this brown, this dark. So he's drying pretty quick. Because I hit him with the hot air gun for like 10 minutes. Yes, I know it's called a hair dryer, but hot air gun just sounds so much better. You can call it what you want. Alright, so let's look at the art for him. See, that's what he looks like. So we're trying to get something like that going. So I'm going to take that same color, and I'm going to get some lighter red, or maybe lighter brown actually. This is called nutmeg. Oh, that's more than I wanted. And I'm going to get some of that red, some of that brown. I'm going to lighten this up some, but not overly, just some. And I'm going to wipe a lot of that off. And then I'm just going to kind of come back over and lighten up some of these areas. This is not a dry brush. I'm just giving it so he doesn't have all one skin color that dries down to be whatevs. If there's any spots where you see a little bit of black thrown through, make sure you get those spots. That's important for his ultimate final look. So in the book he's wearing a kilt, and we did not add a kilt. So it's in light browns and white. So I think what we're going to do with his pants here is I have this thing color called Coffee Latte. And I think I'm going to do his clothes in Coffee Latte and then dry brush them with a white and try to make them look like fabric. It's a little chunky. Maybe that's not the color of our dreams. Let's see how it coats. It works. And again, if you get some of this up on that metal part, metal has pretty good coverage. But I recommend you not get it on the skin you've already done. Okay. And you can get a little bit on the metal on his legs too, because metal, like I said, it's got good coverage generally. Most metallic paints have good coverage that I've seen. I'm sure if you got the wrong kind, you'd regret it, but I've not really had that problem. Get it up under that sheath. And that's just a base coat there. That's all we're going for, is a little base coat to lighten this up some. And then we're going to hit this with the hot air gun. That's kind of what we're looking like so far. Where are you at? In the middle of the screen here. If I can get my hot air gun. That's kind of where we're at so far. So looking at the art from the book, we are not leaps and bounds from that. So let's try to get some of this now. There we go. That's the coverage we wanted. It's coverage our people deserve. And we're just trying to cover up the black so we can bring it down another tone. For those of you who know about the Doom video game, the Doom Slayer in that game, and you know of a good cheap STL or free STL for that, please send it to me. Because I have a buddy who wants me to paint that miniature, since that's kind of where my name came from. I say kind of where my name came from. I'm sure I've told the story before, so I won't bother everybody and tell it again. Alright, we're taking him to the hot air gun. Woo! Now we're just going to kind of paint around on this white part, or this tan part, with this linen color. Now, if you have miniature paints that you use, like I use army painter stuff, I'd be using like mummy robes for this. So whatever brand of paint you're like into, you'll know what colors are what. But since this isn't a real miniature, this is a proxy. I'm not going to bust out real miniature paints for him. So we got some decent coverage here. We've lightened him up some. We're going to set this off to the side for now. We're going to come back and do his boots and the base. So I'm going to look at the book and see what kind of boot. Oh, he's not wearing boots. He's wearing leather straps. Okay, that's not a problem. He's got boots in this miniature. And you're not going to always have the exact... You know, we're making these miniatures. I don't even think they sell a Hound Archon. Maybe they do and I just haven't seen it. I don't bother to look this stuff up, by the way. I'm not. I've committed to make the monster manual, not just the stuff that they don't have miniatures of. So if they do have a miniature of this, I don't know about it. And if they don't, then, well, this is the proxy I'm making. I've been asked to do some Space Marine stuff. Okay, I own a few Space Marines. And I have some of the bug people too, whatever they're called, Tyranids. I don't play 40k. I obviously think it's a cool enough game. I just don't personally play it. I don't want to give some big company all my money. Big major greedy British company all my bucks. And I'm not condemning those who do, but it's just not for me. I might be convinced to print some knockoff army, maybe, I don't know. But, you know, for me, like, I couldn't just do an army. I'd have to, like, customize it and stuff. Like, I'd have to change out stuff and make it mine. Like, I wouldn't be happy just doing, like, an army out of the box. Like, I'm weird. I don't know. I was reading a little bit of lore, and my one buddy was telling me about the Grey Knights. They seem pretty cool. So when you're doing dirt, remember, dirt's not all one color. If you get dirt and take a photo of it and take it in and look at it on like any photo editor or paint or anything like that, and you use that little dropper tool and pull a piece of it, it will not be all one color. So I don't want mine to be one color. Now I want to hit this with a air gun. Then I actually want to paint these boots this color. And then I want to dry brush them down one more. And then I want to come back to these clothes a little bit. So I had this fairly watered down. And if you water stuff down pretty well before you paint with it, when it dries, it won't be like a solid coat. And you'll be able to see some of the color underneath better. So it's a cheap tactic to give some distance, or not distance, I should say, some, I don't know. Can't think of the words, guys, sorry. Alright, let's look at getting my brush wiped out here. My wiper rag fell down out of the handle of my drawer where I keep it. Let's get this linen back out. And let's kind of get it all over this white here. Not looking for perfect coverage at this point. Mediocre coverage will do the job. Just don't have any noticeable streaks. That's the real important part, is like the big noticeable streaks will ruin what we're going for here. You want to make sure you catch some of that musculature with that lighter, for sure. That lighter color. Okay. Alright, let's come back and deal with his upper body. Since I had that linen out, we'll just use that. Let's get his red. Some of that linen. So there's too much white in that. And you'll see why mixing like whites, it makes things wrong. So we're going to have to come back. And we're going to have to get a light brown. And do that, because the white's going to make it too funky. Let's get some of this red, some of this tan. There we go. And it doesn't look as pinky. It looks still kind of brownish. And we're going to wipe a lot of that off. And then let's start hitting some of the high parts of his shoulders and stuff. And I'm not pushing hard. I'm just dragging this along to pick up some of the higher elevations on him, right? Okay. Now we got a little bit of a two-tone thing going here. And now I'm going to get this again. I'm just going to lighten this up one more. And wipe a lot of that off. I'm going to hit him with the hot air gun. And then I'm going to come with a completely lighter. I can find it. Mix this tomato with that. That needs mixed, shaken badly. I'm wiping a lot of that off. I'm just going to touch it's like the tops of his ears, right on his eyebrow ridge there, along his nose, maybe a little bit on his shoulders. Grab some of that musculature, top of his hand, knuckles, along the backs of his arms. I'm going to grab the sides of his face a little bit too. There's some texture there. It's not showing well. All right. Now, I'm getting a small brush. I'm going to start seeing what we got to do about metal. So I'm just going to use this gunmetal gray from my army painter. Down so you can see a little easier what I'm doing. And I'm just going to carefully follow the lines of that metal harness thing he's wearing. I'm trying not to use too much paint, because any overpaint we have is going to be really hard to fix at this point, right? So this is a Hound Archon. Okay, it's like a servant of heaven. So it's similar to the to an angel to an extent. And I think these guys are kind of like bounty hunters for the good gods, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't take the time to read the entry or do anything before I made this video, so I've never run one before. And how I would run these is probably like somebody who would get involved with the party for whatever reason. Maybe as like a go-between, or maybe the party's been mistaken for something that they're not, and it's created some kind of drama with the Celestials, and the Hound Archon has been sent to settle it. Maybe the Archon doesn't know they're good guys, or doesn't care. Maybe the definition of good is blurred in the situation. That can happen, right? Maybe your party has done something absolutely heinous in the name of good or as a mistake, and the Archon has been sent to take care of you. Or maybe, perhaps, you please somebody in the high-ups, and the Archon's on your side. Maybe he's your homie. You don't know. It's really hard to guess. exactly what the Celestials are up to. And if you're playing your Celestials right, nobody but super high level clerics and champions of said deity will even have an idea what they're about anyways. I like to look at like the shenanigans of Norse and Greek/Roman gods for my inspiration for how my deities act. You gotta figure they're immortal. They've been around. They're heavily reliant on people worshiping them. Maybe that's even a source of their power. We don't know. So for me, I like my deities in my games to be fallible. And maybe there's like an all-knowing one, like an Odin or as, you know, I don't know, whoever. But in general, they're shenanigans. And their wants, needs, and desires don't always match up with what's best for people. And I'm sure that an Archon like this guy, who's a lawful good being, would notice something like that. And maybe even realize that sometimes he has to stand up against the good gods. Or maybe a neutral god who tends to sway towards the good that he is, you know, on decent terms with. Who knows? It's your world. It's your adventure. You figure out how it fits. So we're starting to get somewhere with him. We do need to come back and deal with this sheath. I'm going to wipe that brush out and I'm going to get some of this brown here that we kind of wasted. But I'm going to use that as the main color on the sheath, and I'll just lighten that up later. I just dipped my hand in paint. I can feel it. I did. Let's turn this so I'm not dipping it in the wrong color. Alright, so we're going to need the hot air gun burning in a second here. So we can get a second coat on this. We're also going to use that brown, I think, mixed with this color here. We're going to do the sword, cross guard, and handle. Really wish I'd done a better job and got that pommel on there. I think that big swords look way better with a pommel. Alright. Let's wash that brush out and come back on him, on his sheath, and get another coat of that light brown. Not completely dry, but it's ballparkish. All right. Not one of my best jobs, but he's coming together. Let's get this brown and let's get a lot of that wiped off. This is probably not the brush for the job. There we go. Let's come back and touch the tips of his boots a little bit, lighten those up. Hit the backs of his boots where they're kind of... Let's mix a little bit of that and that. And I got a little silver overbrush there. We're just going to touch that. Just to fill that in underneath. We're just going to come all the way around the boot to try to cover up my mistake. And that's kind of his flesh tone, so that was a mistake too. So now I'm just going to do it again with this brown on it. Just try to make it look less like his flesh and more like part of the boot. Then I'm just going to drag that around on the boot so it kind of comes together. Okay, something like that. All right, let's rinse this brush out. Get some gray and do something with the rocks. Get this out of the way for now. So I'm just getting a little bit on the brush here. I'm just going to paint these rocks dark gray. And I'm going to miss some of the brown intentionally. And then I get this little bit of this thing here and mix it up and make a lighter gray. And then I'm just going to touch those in different spots to kind of give them some variation. I'm going to get that white again. I'm going to make it even lighter. And I'm just going to tap the tops to get something different going. Then I'm going to get black and go around the base. Now mind you, this craft costs more than what I normally do because I wasn't sure how to make him from scratch and make him look good at all. So normally I make stuff from complete garbage. This one, I don't know how much one of those hero clicks could cost. Any one of these hero clicks that I had on the table could work. So just keep in mind, if you can find a little plastic caveman toy or anything that's remotely medium-sized, which basically means it fits on fills up a 5-foot square or a 1-inch base. Anything like that will work. You don't have to have the exact parts I had. You might be looking through your stuff and find a better dog head. God, I hope you find a better dog head than I had. Go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. All right. Missed a whole bunch of the around the outside over here. Boom. Yeah. So that silver's really bright, isn't it? Well, that's okay. Because we're going to fix it. But let's get our brush wet. And let's use a little teeny brush here. This is a really tiny brush. I'm just going to touch his eyes. Oh, there's a little piece of my brush coming off. Then I'm going to get my black and a little bit of water. And I'm just going to touch him again with that. And give him some like pupils. And I'm going to water that down one more time. And do his nose. And you want this to be kind of like a little triangle, really. All right, let's look at the picture. All right, we're kind of in the ballpark. Our silver is way too silvery and our handle needs some work. So let's get our paint put away. And I'm going to jump to speed paints. If you don't have speed paints, you can use washes of different types. And I'm going to get a little bit of a bigger brush out to use. Here we go. So when I use speed paints, if you're using a wash, you won't have to worry about this because you'll have it in some kind of container. But I'm just going to get some of this runic gray here and go over the metallics on his stuff. And I'm just going to pull it out so it's not real thick. And I'm just going to go around and hit the metallics with it. Real easy. To break up that kind of monochrome metal look. And give it a little more meow. A little more meow. And if you're making the mistake I'm making right now, you'll know it instantly when you get it on a part that is not supposed to be that color. So we gotta do his armbands. And if it's too thick, it'll just kind of pull around and go where it wants. So you want to have it thin enough that you can control where it's going. Something like that. Then for his blade, I'm going to get this cloudburst blue, and I'm going to do this on his sheath too, so they look like a set that goes together. So let me rinse out this brush again. I'm also going to be doing the same cloudburst blue on that light brown handle, but with less intensity. So you can use a thinning agent on these if you want. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to water it down and drag it around on that handle. And I'm going to hope it makes some little interesting bubbles and pops on here. Because water and speed paint are not friends. Alright, now we're going to hit him with the hair dryer. Get that brush rinsed out. Alright. Get kind of a bigger brush again. And what we're going to do, we're going to grab some of that silver we had earlier. And a dab of this blue. And we're going to wipe a lot of that off. A lot of that off. And we're just going to kind of come along the edges of the sword. I'm going to do a little bit of work on that sheath. Just a little bit. We just want to lighten it up a little bit. We don't want to change it too drastically. Okay. Now I see a little spot under the hilt here that I missed with that blue watered down. So I'm just going to get that again and grab that spot. Clean that up. Alright, there he is. I didn't really have a great plan going into this, but I'd say execution-wise we kind of nailed it, right? Let's do our after-action review here real quick. We need a little green flock on his base. That's too easy, right? We'll get our glue, get our cardboard, and we'll sort that right out. Get a cheap brush or a toothpick or whatever you got. I usually use a cheap brush. Today I'm using a toothpick. And we're just going to pick out some spots where we want some green on the base. Now that hilt was this thing's going to need a little work. That's alright. We'll come back and get that in just a moment. Let's see what we can do with that. So we got this darker brown here that we used for the color of that. We can mix a little bit of this with it. Let's drag that across there and lighten that up some. This is not the part where you want to get brave and do anything fancy. This is the part you just want to say, oh, I made a little thing I don't like. I want to fix it real quick. You don't want to get too smushed. We're on our last lap right now, so we don't want to tear up our work. All right, I like that a little better. I would like to lighten him up a little bit, but I'm afraid of screwing him up too much. Yeah, this is a mistake, I can tell already. Here we go. This is a mistake. Never come back in this late and start playing around. You ever heard of the term overpainting? Yeah, that's what's happening right here. I'm doing it right in front of you. And I might just lose a couple hours of work for it. Actually, we're going to stop here. Minus one little thing. There's a piece on the front of his knee that I don't like. So we're going to get a little bit of this. And we're just going to kind of drag that across it. Okay. Alright, so there we go. Let's look at the book. And see what we got here. So this is the book's Hound Archon, and this is ours. Again, it's like a Rottweiler Doberman mix, or a Pitbull Doberman mix or something. It's muscular. We got some muscular stuff going on. We didn't get the head great. We didn't have a cool goatee like he has. But for a proxy, and for something that took about an hour and some to make, I would say we could have done a little better. We could have done a little worse. I'm not completely unhappy with him. And maybe once he's clear coated, he'll look better too. So next is the Arrowhawk, and we'll be starting that later on. And that is the Arrowhawk, and I think they're dumb. So if you like what we did here today, consider liking and subscribing, hitting the bell icon. That helps. If you want to buy miniatures, you know where to go. Go to the link in the description. Go to the website. There's some discount codes. If you're paying attention, you'll see there's a way to get a free mini. And there's a way to get 25% off your first month of our subscription box, which is awesome. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope everybody learned something or got an idea or was inspired in some form or way. And I'll see you guys next time.